So again, we see our patient list. Dr. Henry's going to pick another case. There are 4 cases here, and I only want to take you through 2 of them, only for the sake of time. This next case really identifies other aspects of the software that are so good and so helpful to the physician. Some physicians had said to me that the software makes them feel closer to their patient because they can spend more time with their patient. But when it comes to documentation, this assists them in identifying key aspects that are in the electronic health record. Let me say one more thing. As Retrieve looks through the electronic medical record, it is looking at the current visit, all prior emergency department visits, and ambulatory care visits if they use Cerner or Epic in the ambulatory care area. So we are being able to screen all prior records without going through the pages and pages of review that is required to do what Retrieve is doing in seconds.
We're going to do a patient now with a fall. Patient has previous condition of malignant melanoma. Patient had a trauma survey done, but there were several.
As you see, Dr. Henry clicked the comorbidity tab, which is really the launching of the Retrieve software. And the software immediately listed these comorbidities that are present on this patient. On the bottom of the screen, you see it says radiology report, and we'll get to that as we go through this patient's chart. It identified 4 key areas. 1, anemia, malnutrition, lactic acidosis, and identifying whether this is SIRS criteria is met and whether there's sepsis or not. Dr. Henry will talk about each one of those. The highlighted areas, based on the rules that are programmed into the software, it identified that the anemia is chronic. We decide as clinicians, as physicians, whether we agree with that and whether we think it's pertinent enough to include in the electronic medical record. Let's listen to Dr. Henry, and I'll stop us again shortly.
Comorbidities found. 1, we note that with 1 click, it pulls up the.
Sorry, I'm interrupting you again just because this is so important here. Notice the rules that have come up for anemia. Not only is it looking at the current hemoglobin and hematocrit, but looking at the immediate prior hemoglobin and hematocrit that was put into the patient's record. This way, where you're getting real-time evaluation of the current hemoglobin compared to the prior hemoglobin that was listed.
Just hemoglobin and hematocrit, and previous visit, if it was in the electronic record, suggests chronic, as indeed physician validates. Notes from the height and weight that there's severe malnutrition, a significant comorbid factor.
Now, I'm not sure about you, physicians who may be listening to this, but I identify patients as being malnourished or cachectic, and I'll use those terms possibly when I document about them, but more often I forget to do that. I'm more worried about their ABCs and their breathing and do I have to intubate. But it is important to note this, and it does let me know that based on the height and weight, this patient meets criteria for severe malnutrition. It's my option whether I want to put it in and whether treating that will be part of the patient's treatment plan.
Documents lactic acidosis. SIRS is present, but we don't believe there is a present infection, so we attribute it to non-infectious processes.
Now, let me hold up there and talk about the quality initiative here. Many times, physicians will not be alerted that there is sepsis that's present. One physician remarked that he didn't even think about that. He was tired, and the software identified that SIRS was present, lactic acidosis was present, and made him realize that he needed to act quickly to take care of this patient who indeed could have had sepsis. So it is a quality metric analyzer and identifier that can be used by the physician even after 10 hours of a 12-hour shift. This helps them identify areas that they may have gotten a little more tired about. Now we're looking at the EKG, I'm sorry, the radiology readings, and using natural language processing, we are identifying the fact that this word atelectasis shows up. And this is a finding that the software identifies as a comorbidity. The question is do we want to include it? Let's listen.
We note in the record that atelectasis was found in a radiology report. We can go view the entire report and read it in context. And we concur that it is probable atelectasis in the lower lobes, and we document it as well. We save to the record, go back into our documentation. Find the diagnosis, malignant melanoma and a subdural hematoma. And to accurately document the findings, we insert the comorbidities. We agree the way.
Again, here's all the comorbidities that were identified by the software that are listed. In a moment, you'll see them actually placed into the electronic medical record, and realize that Dr. Henry didn't have to go through prior records, prior charts, that the software did a lot of the quality initiatives, helped him with his communication, and clearly helps with patient safety.
Written, and they're added to the record, along with their values, so that subsequent clinicians don't have to go searching through all the records the program did to see the actual values present.